Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in to Cold Black Facts. You guys know I love you and I do appreciate you. So I want to talk about the viral video of Iyana Van and Ebony K. Williams. And for those of you guys who do not know, this video went viral because of the conversation that they were having as it relates to black women and black women being masculine. Okay. Iyana particularly was, basically describing, how masculine black women have been taught to be, and how because, black women are so masculine and have been taught to be that way that, the relationships are lacking, right? The relationships between black women and black men are lacking because of it. And, Iyana is a very well diverse woman. And I am a lover of Iyana because I believe that Iyana is very, she truly desires to help people, more specifically her own people, which are black people. And I do believe that she is very skilled in that area. However, what I would like to talk about as it relates to this video and the conversation that they were having is, again, this is my own personal opinion, but I personally believe that a lot of truths were told on Iyana's part. However, I believe that there was a lot of intentional avoidance and ignoring of the symptoms, the whys, and the results, right? So what I mean by that is you can't on one hand say black women are masculine, black women were taught to be masculine, and that because black women lack femininity, right? That the reason why we're seeing the relationships between black women and black men, what they are, or the relationships between black women to black women, what they are, is because of that. You can't speak on that and then speak on why that is, why, what happened, right? And so the whys were left out. And the reason why I say it was an intentional is because, I think we all can agree Iyana is a very intelligent, very well diverse, very learned, taught, and wise woman. So this woman she knows the statistics. She is a part of the statistics. She's 3 times divorced. She's, former baby mama. So you cannot tell me, she's been abused. She's been sexually assaulted at the hands of a man, a black man. So you cannot tell me she does not know the whys. You cannot tell me that you have a woman who's been violated at the age of 9, a young girl at the age of 9. Iyana tells the story in her biography where she was violated by her own uncle at the age of 9. So you cannot tell me that a 9-year-old who had been violated by their uncle, a black man, is not going to grow up having a certain type of mentality. And that just doesn't go for Iyana. It goes for a lot of young black girls who are violated by their counterparts. Now, if you've ever been violated, I don't know if you guys have, but there's a certain type of personality that comes with that. There's a certain type of protection that you take on after that. You become a victim of that. That has a lot to do with how you see and view the world after that. Especially if it's your own family. Especially if it's a black man whom you may see, oh, you're supposed to protect me. You like me. We look like each other. So she left out all the whys on purpose. You cannot tell me that Iyana does not know the femicide rate. You cannot tell me that Iyana does not know the divorce rate between black men and black women. You cannot tell me Iyana does not know the abuse that black women endure at the hands of the counterparts. You cannot tell me that this smart, intelligent woman who's been on Oprah, who's traveled all over the world, who's divorced 3 times with children, who's experienced, death of a child. You cannot tell me this woman, as wise and as smart and powerful as she is, does not know these things. You cannot tell me Iyanla does not know the cause and effect of things. You cannot tell me that Iyanla is not smart enough and learned enough and taught enough and educated enough to know that when children lack, or when any person, it could be an adult, when you have lack, it builds a certain something inside of you where when you get out of lack, you're like, I ain't never going back, right? When you grow up struggling, grow up in trauma, grow up in struggle mindset, a desperate mindset, when you grow up in that and then you're able to come out of that and overcome that, which most black people grow up in that. All right. These are the statistics. I'm not speaking, just pulling stuff out of the air. Statistically, most of us grow up either in middle class or lower class. That's just what it is. And there's reasons as to why that is. And this video is I'm not going to talk about those reasons. But what I will say is when you grow up in certain environments, around certain mindsets, around certain things, traumas that happen to you, it's going to build something in you. Iyanla knows this because she grew up in it all. She grew up in the hood. All right. She grew up, like I said, her mom passed away. She had to go stay with her uncle at 9. Her uncle began to violate her. This came out of her own biography. So when you grow up like that and you've endured that, what do you guys think a young person, it doesn't matter if it's a woman or man, because the gender don't matter. But what do you think will happen? Do you think you're going to grow up nice thinking that life is peaches and cream? Or do you think you're going to grow up with a hard shell like, I wish somebody would. I wish somebody would. I'm going to protect myself. Since nobody will protect me, since the uncle that violated me didn't protect me, I'm going to protect myself. And then when I do get a husband, I'm going to make sure that he protects me. And it's going to be probably so overbearing for him that he won't even understand it, which is probably why she's 3 times divorced. And she's now talking about how masculine women are or is when, and that her herself is that way. Because she's talking about from her own lens, you guys. And there's nothing wrong with that. Do not get me wrong. Don't get it twisted. It's nothing wrong with sharing your wisdom and your experience. But when it goes from you sharing your wisdom and your experience, and then now you're, out here sharing this that many black women have in common with her, right? Many black women have a lot of things in common with Iyanla in terms of, what she's been through. However, you're not sharing the whys. Yes, this is why I said everything that she said, there's some truth to it. I agree with it. But there's a reason why black women are more masculine or take on more masculine traits these days because of how they grow up. When you don't have a man in the home, which we know for a fact, we hear it all the time, most black children did not grow up with fathers in the home. We know for a fact that many black men, particularly men from the 80s, the 90s, 70s, they was in jail getting locked up. We know the crack epidemic hit. It affected a lot of black people, black men and black women. So you got all these different things that the black community has been through. And you mean to tell me that you don't know that the effects of that can build somebody to be hard, somebody to feel like they got to watch their own back, somebody that feels like there's no one that can help them because the very people that were supposed to help them look like them and didn't? What? I don't believe it for 1 second. Iyanla knows this, and for whatever reason, I do not know. But she's choosing to ignore all of those things, given the very things that she herself have been through. Let's go ahead and get into this video.
Iyanla Van Zant, we are so blessed to have you here with us today on the Griot. I want to start, dear, with something that we share. Which is that we are both attorneys by trade. You are a
Yes.
lawyer, you have a legal background. And as women in the law, Iyanla, do you believe that lens, that legal lens, informs our perspective and the way we show up in the world as women?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I got out. Yeah. Very, very, very masculine, very intellectual, almost stripped and robbed of humanity. It really shows the dichotomy between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And
Mm.
for me, it just didn't feed my soul. And so I had to get out.
Okay, so as you guys can see, Ebony started out the video basically, saying, hey, we have the, lawyer thing in common. And so, would you agree that that forms our lens, our views of like how we maneuver in life because we have that background? And as you guys could see, Iyana agreed. But the interesting thing about that is that she understood, that perspective in terms of how being in a position that requires, you to be hard, requires you to be strong, requires you to kind of maneuver, quote unquote, like a man. But she didn't even mention the perspective of how, women who are put in those same everyday positions just in everyday life, paying all the bills, right? Providing, being the provider for the family, being the protector for the family. It's the same thing. If you're walking through life as a lawyer and you're maneuvering through life as a lawyer, and you know that because of that position that you're in, that, brings out that masculinity, then on the other hand, you would also know that when you're a woman raising children alone, or when you're a woman, and that protector mechanism isn't there, that leadership mechanism isn't there, and you yourself have to step into that, then that's also going to make you maneuver through life and view life from a specific type of lens as well.
I feel that, and I do feel that I might have heard on a date or two, Iyanla, that we are not in a courtroom, Ebony. You can put the gavel down, and I do feel it can spill over into the way I show up in my womanhood, which is really the center of this conversation today, Iyanla. We want to discuss masculine energy, feminine energy. I do want to start with kind of a news framing, which is that women's rights across the country, especially Black women's rights, they're under attack. Lots of laws are banning abortions. They are regulating what we can and cannot do with our bodies. What do you think happens for Black women when this type of siege is at play and we don't feel we have anyone to protect us?
Right. Well, the first thing I think we do is we go into anger. We go into anger without a clear ask. Doesn't make sense to be angry unless you got to ask. What is it that you're asking for? People can say anything in the world, but that doesn't mean that they get a right to do it. It doesn't mean that they get a right to affect you. But because so many of us are programmed and conditioned and educated to think like men, we respond like men. And when I mean men, I don't mean two-legged beasts. I mean, I mean in the masculine energy, and it becomes competitive, it becomes aggressive, it becomes againstness, and that's not who we are as women. It just isn't. And I think for Black women, particularly for us, the way that we've been programmed and conditioned and educated in the society to expect less, to accept less, to be angry and to complain, but to not really step into our authentic self, our authentic power as women, and create what we want, even if that's create the demand. Oh, no, not here, not today.
Okay, so Ayana mentioned that Black women respond with anger, right? And, I would definitely agree with that. However, my question to that would be, should Black women not be angry that the protection is not there? Should we just go along to get along? Should we just, show no anything? Should Black women, not be angry with the conditions of the black community, right? In terms of like, and it's been like this for a long time. Black women, when we talk about protection, right? Because this is, this is what they're talking about, right? When we talk about protection, black women have not felt like they have been protected for a very long time. Before I was born, there were things that happened to black women in the black community. Not even including slavery, right? Because we could include slavery and say, well, black women, there was no protectors. So that builds up a certain, that builds up a certain like a certain mindset. It's like, okay, dang, you can't protect yourself and you can't protect me or your children either. So we're not going to even include slavery, even after slavery, right? After physical slavery for, another, hundreds of years, black people, black women in particular, were not protected. Black men were not protecting us from the boogeyman, white man. Black women and black men and black children were still being harmed after slavery in every way, financially, emotionally, spiritually, physically, in every way. So should black women be happy, of those conditions? Or should black women be like, wait a minute, something ain't right. I don't want these conditions. I'm tired of these conditions. And I need the so-called men and the leaders to do something about these conditions. And we're not going to even go into the whole civil rights thing, because most, like 99.99% of all those movements were a lot of black women participation. I think the Black Panther Party had like something like 60 something percent black women. It was more black women that were not only a part of that organization, but also the participants, the dominating participants of that organization, and many more. Black women have been side by side with black men in every movement in this since civil rights, and even before. Every last one of them. It's only recently, many of these movements, black women are not necessarily the majority. When we talk about like the passport thing, that's a whole little movement, and you talk about the whatever the other movements that they have going on that are majority men. But even still, you have black women that are participants in those movements as well. But when we talk about the movements that quote unquote got us out of bondage, black women in many of those movements were the larger participants in those organizations. So again, should black women not be mad at the circumstances of the black community, at the circumstances with black children, at the circumstances with every area of life, like wealth wise, education wise, political, spiritual? Like, should we not be concerned or angry that things have not changed? Should we not? I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I would, I would want my people after me, my kids, the younger generation after me, to have better than I did. I wouldn't want the same traumas and the same dysfunctions for that I endured to go onto them. That means nothing will ever change. And when you really know history and you look back, nothing has changed. Everything has been reformed. Yes, there's no such thing as physical slavery, but there's mental slavery. You have black people that are mentally enslaved to all types of things. Mentally. It's got holds on the minds of many black people. And because of those holds, many black people are unable to reach their higher power, their higher potential. You got drugs that is on the minds of some of these black people. You have name brands that are on the minds. You have you know, likes on social media. You have, you know, all kinds of things that has grasped the holds of many black people that have them in bondage still right now today. So they're not in physical bondage. They're in mental bondage, emotional bondage, financial bondage. Black people are still in the position of being second class still. If you listen to Dr. Claude Anderson will tell us that black people have lost wealth, that black people are on our way to becoming a what does he call it? A I forget the name that he used, but it's locked into a what is it? Locked into a working class, meaning that if we do not turn things around, we're going to be locked into basically the lower class because of the amount of wealth that we have not been able to obtain after physical slavery. This man has been preaching this forever. Do you think black people are listening? No. We play like we listening. We hoorah and hooray. And then when we stop hoorahing and hooray and nobody's looking, we go about our business.
Okay, I hear you articulating, Iyanla, this masculine energy traits, the competitiveness, the assertiveness. Tell me how you would frame feminine traits. Aggressive.
Grace.
Aggressive.
Yeah, aggressive, not assertive. It's okay for a woman to be assertive. Grace, first of all. I think we've lost our grace. We move in such a harsh and hard way. Grace, compassion, nurturing, nourishing, elegance. How about majesty? How about divinity? How about holiness? This is not a language you hear coming out of most women's mouths, but they'll talk about being a boss, being a diva, being, in charge. And many of us are either not seated in our throne as queens, or we're in the throne and the crown is crooked, meaning we're in the throne and we don't really know how to hold that place without the masculine aggressiveness and demanding and attachment. And it's killing us. It really is.
Okay, so she says that we've lost our grace. And I agree. But you know what? What she did not say and what she ignored and what she intentionally, is just not even, didn't even talk about was the reason why. There's got to be a reason why. Can you guys why do you think that there are black women who have lost their grace? Why? Let me give you some examples of life as it relates to black womanhood. And this is not for every single black woman, but I'm going to give you a lot of different scenarios that relates to 99.99% of black women. All right. So let's talk about Iyana. Iyana, you yourself in your biography, she named that she had been sexually violated by her uncle. I believe when a woman, a girl, has went through that, hell yeah, you're gonna lose your grace. Like, really? I mean, I can't tell you any sexual assault victims that are happy that they were sexually assaulted. I don't know any of them. I don't know any children who grew up and became adults and have something nice to say about being sexually assaulted. You are going to lose your grace. You are going to lose a lot of stuff after that happens to you. And a lot of black women that has happened to. A lot of black children that has happened to. I'm going to give you another scenario that will make you lose your grace, right? When you are so-called in love or in like or in lust or whatever you may be with a man whom you believe is going to be there for you, whom you believe loves you, whom you believe, is putting just as much into the relationship as you are, and then bam, you get pregnant, and then bam, he's not there anymore. That will also make you lose your grace. It sure will. Because when you're young, 19, 20, 21, you don't know a damn thing about nothing. And anybody that say you do, you're lying. You are young. And those are the years between, I would say, probably 17 to 25, where you are learning. You're experiencing different things. You're creating your boundaries. You are learning. And a lot of young girls, thank God I wasn't one of them, but I do know a lot of them fell victim in that range. Victim. Even the ones that got married in that range fell victim to thinking that a Negro is laying up inside of them, love them, is going to be there for them, only to find out he's not. So yeah, I would think that, yeah, something like that happened to you. Yeah, you also will lose your grace. Now, I want to say this, just because you lose it don't mean you can't get it back, because life is a journey of a lot of different things. Life hits you with a lot of different things. Some things you see coming and some things you don't see coming. And we all have the option, maybe not the ability, but we all have the option to, experience something and decide that we are not going to be bound by that. Now, how that happens and when that happens is different for everybody. I've been through things in my life and I've chose to rise above it. I've chose to not allow that to dictate my views or how I maneuver through life. That came with wisdom. That came with life. That came with living. That came with being cultured. That came with being aware and being conscious of different things. But that didn't just come just because. This is what I'm saying. There's a responsibility that people like Iyanla, people like myself, that we have to not only our community, but just to people in general about the truth, about reality. There are so many different things that happen to Black women, Black girls, where, yeah, before the assault, you was a normal person. Yeah, before the abuse, you was a normal person. You seen life through rosy lens. But then something happens to you and you like, oh hell no, that ain't gonna happen again. That's not gonna happen again. I never forget when I was in college, a young man whom I thought was my friend, whom I met in college. We had classes together. Very nice young man, but I guess he was having a hard time in life. So you know what he did? He was able to, he made it seem like, oh, I gotta go to work and I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Do you mind if I just come over? I'll sleep on your couch. I'm so tired. I'm like, okay, no big deal. Negro came over, was asleep. I ended up falling asleep. I woke up. Negro had then stole I had just got paid. I had $750. This Negro, who I thought was my friend, stole from me. Before then, I had rosy sunglasses on. I thought that, oh, well, if this person's a friend, you've been knowing them for all these years, that would never happen. And you know what? I learned my lesson. That happened to me. I was very young. I was in college. 19, 20, I don't remember. But I was very young, very naive. And I thought this person was my friend. Only to find out that this Negro stole my money. You guys, I had rent to pay. I had all kinds of bills to pay. I couldn't pay them. And when and if you steal from me, you don't get grace. When and if you abuse me mentally, verbally, physically, emotionally, financially, you don't get grace. That's how that works. That's how that works. You do not get any grace for doing those things. That's how that works. And you got one time to do it, not several. So when asked, where the grace went, Iyanla, that's where it went. That's where it went. You don't get grace or give grace to those who do not deserve it. The only people who deserve grace are those who give it to you. When you need somebody who is understanding, caring, who is, emotionally there, emotionally available. Those are the people who get grace. When you show that you're not, you get no grace. None. That's how that works. That's how that transaction works. You don't just give grace because you're a woman. You give grace because this person deserves it. You don't just submit because you're a woman. You submit because this person deserves it. And if you listen to the Bible actually says you only submit to your husband. Husband. Someone who is trying to be your husband, who is pursuing you to be your husband, not pursuing you for sex, not pursuing you just to talk to you on the phone, just to get what they can get from you, but pursuing you for marriage. That's who you submit to. You don't just submit to any old body. But see, will that be said? No, it will not be said. Was that left out? Absolutely. It was left out intentionally.
So in a recent interview with our dear friends over at the Breakfast Club, that went very viral for very good reason, you said that women are being trained to be men in skirts. I will acknowledge, I will say I was triggered. I was a hit dog, and I hollered to the entire production team to get you here today, because I actually think you're right. I think you're right, Iyanla. I do think that I'll just speak for myself vulnerably. When I think of a masculine posture and what I would expect a man to do in my life, two things come top of mind, and they are provide and they are protect. And when my lived experience, and I think I'm still relatively young, I guess, but I'm 40 in September. So, I've had some relationships, and I've yet to find a man who has shown, this includes even my father, who was absent. I've yet to have a male energy that provided or protected me consistently ever. So I think that I have taken on the reins to protect and provide for myself, because what I'm not going to do, Iyanla, is be without. Baby, it's not happening.
Be without what?
So that
Be
without protection, and be without the necessities of life.
Okay.
But I say that with an invitation, Iyanla, check me. Show me the error of my ways. Tell me how I might be missing it, because I might be.
Okay. I too am an alpha woman. So I understand what that means. And I tell people all the time, I was a horrible mother. I was a great father. And I was a horrible mother because I'd never been mothered. So I didn't know how to affirm, how to nurture, how to nourish, how to guide. I knew how to direct, how to demand, how to discipline, and like you said, provide and protect. Those are masculine energies. And the distinction here is men build, women create. So we know how to build. We know how to get to the external and get the work done and drive and push and do it. We don't know how to be still, create it, and allow it to come to us. And I learned that when I lost everything.
Okay, so in that class clip, Ebony explains, where the protecting and the providing comes from as it relates to, her, right? She said that she will not be without protection, and she will not be without the necessities of life. And to be quite honest, who wants to be without protection, and who wants to be without the necessities of life? And if there is no male leadership there, women, Black women in particular, are having to take that on themselves, right? And when she explained that, Iyana, instead of Iyana going into that, right, that is a very valid thing that a lot of Black women and Black girls face, right? Because a lot of Black children grew up in single parent homes, right? So instead of her going into that and, bringing some light on that, she completely disregards that, because it's very valid. It's very valid. It's human nature that when there's a void, you want to fill that void. Now, how you fill that void varies from person to person. It just depends on the person. But if you have been if your void has been, there has not ever been any protection, well, then the way that you feel that void is you're going to, learn or, come into knowledge of ways that you can protect yourself. That could be you getting, you getting a gun license as a woman. That could be, you putting yourself in position where you're always protected. Maybe, you're in a career where there's always men. Maybe you become a police officer as a woman. Maybe you become in a male driven dominant career as a woman where you're always around men because you view and see men as protectors. And then it could be the complete opposite. It could be, well, maybe, because there was no protection, you view the world as, there ain't gonna be nobody to do it, so I'm gonna have to do it. So I'm gonna go out here and fight like, a man, or think I'm a man, or whatever like that. It could be the complete opposite spectrum. But for Ebony, she said that, okay, she had to step into those shoes. So protection for her meant that, hey, there was no man to do it, so I'm doing it. I'm putting myself in position where I am protected. I'm putting myself in position where I am provided for. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because if Black women waited on anybody, not just Black men, but anybody to do for us that should already have been done, we would be waiting. Because forever, since I have been on this earth, and even before me, Black people in general have not been protected. Black men either. Black men can't even protect themselves from the white supremacy and racism. They can't even protect themselves. They can't even protect the children from that. So if we are waiting on protection as a group of women or as a people, we will be waiting, and we will be doing what we've been doing, marching. And every time something happens to a Black person, we scream, we holler, but nothing gets done. Something happens, we scream, we holler, but nothing gets done. Something happens, we scream, we holler, but nothing gets done. We on year, 800, and still we scream, we holler, and nothing gets done. So you know what? When you go through years and years and years of that, you find ways to protect yourself. You find mechanisms to protect yourself. That's how that works. And then Iyana also, goes into, how she, was an alpha female, and how, being an alpha female, she had to kind of take on that same mindset. And I would, I don't know, Iyana, because my thing is I cannot help but remember the video about you telling the story of how Iyana had to basically stab her ex-husband. She stabbed him in the chest. So Iyana was married 3 times. Her first husband, she had 2 children with, and they got into it. And she talks about how horrible of a man he was and how he was an abuser. And she tells the story of how, they get into it. She changes the locks, and then he comes home from work. He was a working man. And, she said that if he would have got into the house, he would have did something to her. So she took it upon herself, human nature, to act. A mother protecting her cubs, baby. And she got a knife. Honey, she wasn't scared. She was about that life. See, now had she just sat there, oh, help me, someone help, we may not even know, Iyana may not even be, because we do know the femicide rates. She may not even have lived to tell the story, but she had to jump into protect mode to protect herself. So again, I ask, is it really that you were trained to be hard, or is it really that you suffered as a woman, as a young girl, at the hands of the men in your life that created such a rough and tough and hard woman? Is it that? We cannot ignore that. And Iyana's story is not just one story. There's so many all over the internet. You see stories of Black women having survived something at the hands of a man who looked just like them. We cannot ignore those stories. We cannot ignore those experiences. And when you've been through that stuff, it does something to you. Yes, you are going to be, a little hard. Yes, you're going to feel like you have to protect yourself. Yes, you're going to feel like if nobody do it, I'm going to do it. Come on now, y'all. Like, come on.
I learned how to create because I had already built and it all crumbled. The house, the husband, the job, the contracts, the professional career in the world,
Sure.
stripped of it all the attachments, the necessities of life, the creature comforts,
Right.
until I was stripped down to the bare bone. And then I had to learn how not to build. Build is external, create is internal. And we as women have the power to create and attract anything we desire. But we don't get still. We won't shut up. And we manage everything through fear, control, and survival, as opposed to feeling, knowing, and blooming or flourishing. Complete different thing. But since we've never been trained, we haven't been trained, we haven't been taught. So we do it the way we were taught to do it, which is very masculine in nature.
And what I find interesting is that I remember when Iyana announced that her third husband were getting a divorce. And I remember there was a lot of backlash towards Iyana because Iyana just explained in an interview that she did where, her husband was not serving her what she needed and she just decided to get a divorce. And she said this on video. And, men took that and was like, oh, see, black women, see, this is an example. See, black women, she leaving that man. See, that's a good man to her. She gonna leave him for another woman. I bet you. And then they was calling her, all types of different names. Because she decided that she no longer wanted to be married because her husband at that time, I don't know, I can't remember if it was the second or third, I don't remember. But anyways, I remember the video. I'll post it in the comment section. But she was divorcing him because he just wasn't serving her needs. She said, I think verbatim, something about him not loving her the way she needed to be loved. Those were her words exactly. And she stated this when she was doing the Oprah Winfrey segments, when she was on Oprah and she was helping people and stuff like that. That's the video. I remember that video, and I remember black men had a field day with her. They were mad. The audacity she leave a good man because she feels. Not because he cheated, not because, he did something, that she had stated, but because she stated verbatim that he just didn't know how to love her the way she needed to be loved. Very bland, very general reason. And a lot of black men were upset. I remember that. And they made videos about how black women, are not satisfied, and how we find good men, but we don't keep them. So it's interesting that she, brings up, how she lost it all. And then I'm thinking like, okay, well then with the third one, I remember her saying, because she did like this whole tour. She was on tour something where she was in all white. And I remember her telling a story about, how the marriage fell apart and how she was able to forgive him because she was doing an interview one day. I think she was on Oprah. And she messed up and told the world that her man didn't have a job because there was a woman in the audience talking about how, her man didn't have a job. And I don't know if you guys, I have never been with a man without a job. So that ain't my life. It will never be, if I'm working, you working. That's just how it is. No. But you do have some women who will provide and take on that role. And so what is missing from Iyana's conversation is that the reason why she felt like she had to step up, she felt like she had to be the daddy to her children, even though the children had a daddy, was because she was the one paying bills. See, we got to talk about that, because if you are providing for the family, you're going to take on that mindset. You're providing. You're the you paying the bills. When you paying the bills as a woman, and you're taking care of a man who is healthy, who can go get pay, go get a job and work, there's something inside of you that happens. And even though Iyana did not mean to emasculate her man before the entire world, she did. Because in the inside of her, she knew something wasn't right. I'm working, I'm busting my butt, and I'm taking care of this man, this able-bodied man. And when she said that, because of his ego, things fell apart. So, you know, we really got to be honest. I mean, there are a lot of women out here with men whom they make more money than, or with men who make just as much money as they do. And if you sitting up paying all the bills or the majority of the bills, that does something to you. And the only way that it wouldn't is if you have tricked yourself into believing that even though I'm the breadwinner, he's really the leader. That takes a lot of that takes some trickery that you got to do with your mind. And most people are not able to trick themselves into thinking that even though they make the money, they pay the bills, they take care of the family, that they don't have a voice. They still have to, you got to be very skilled to do that. And in most other cultures of people, that don't even work with them. That don't work with them. A man is taught to protect and to provide for his family. Only in the Black community are we teaching women, young girls, that they are the ones that should be providing and protecting, because they should be the ride or dies. They should be the hold me downs. They should believe in a man until he come up. And then when he come up, it wasn't, they didn't leave, they didn't get left because he came up. They got left because, it just didn't work out. We all know that's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. Because you was arguing and doing all this stuff when you was broke, and I was paying the bills and I was helping you do what you wanted to do. But the minute you got some money, now,
Serious.
Yeah.
I had a very lovely single Black mother, and I'm going to get to the statistics on single Black motherhood and family life. But she was, by definition, more of a father figure in terms of providing and protecting. And I think that's very common. So according to the U.S. Census, Iyanla, 23% of households in the country are single-parent households, and we know 80% of them are led by women. How does this affect the child? Both little girls, little boys, non-binary children. How does that frame their expectation of women when the mother is in charge?
It all depends on what the mother or the woman demonstrates about being a woman. If she's demonstrating that it's hard and it's rough and nobody's helping me and I got to do this and you got to do it this way, then that's what the children are going to get. If she's angry because she's alone, if she's desperate if she's not conscious, if she's not careful. I mean, when I look at the damage that I did to my children, not being clear about who I am as a feminine expression of the chief architect and creator of the universe. When I understand that I didn't know that and how to tap into that and the damage I did to my children who I love with all my heart. As soon as I discovered how off I was, I confessed it to them.
this would have been a really good time for Iyana to go into, the results of being a single mother, raising children alone, because that comes with, a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure, a lot of trauma, a lot of struggles. It comes with a lot. And, this would have been a good time for Iyana to, be like, okay, I can see why, you would feel that you need to be X, Y, and Z because, of the environment, what you were exposed to as a child. But she didn't go into that. She did not go into that. And those are factors. That factors into any person. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. It doesn't matter if you're a young girl or a young boy. You grow up in that type of environment where you're watching your mother, your single mother struggle. Or let's say maybe your single mother wasn't struggling, but you're watching your single mother maneuver through life as a single woman, taking care of you, having to work hard, having to leave you at home or leave you with family members, to provide and things like that, which is a lot of Black women's reality. And it was even Iyana's reality. That has its own trials, but she didn't go into that. If you've been through that, right, it's going to create in you either you're going to want to have nothing to do with something like that, right? So, you're going to be like, look, when I get older, I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to be a single mom struggling like my mother. I want to be the complete opposite. Or it's going to make you feel like, okay, well, my mom did it, so maybe I can do it too. Or it's gonna, there's a lot that come with that, and Iyana didn't go into that. And so when a woman goes through that, yes, you're going to have some hardness about you. You're gonna maybe you're gonna lack nourishment for your children because you're out in the world most of the time, and in the little time that you do have at home with your children, there's no telling what that time is like for a lot of single mothers, especially Black single mothers, who the majority are not even middle class. So and then Alana goes into talking about how she was the daddy. It's like, lady, how was you the daddy when the kids had daddies? How were you the daddy when you were married three times? I can see she may have been the daddy because she did get pregnant at 16, or she had a baby at 16. She was a young 16-year-old mother, and she did end up marrying the first husband from that. So I could see that, but all the other times after, like, you was married to men who did not want to be fathers, I would say that would make a woman take on the mindset of a masculine mindset. Because, yeah, you are having to step in as the mother and the father if the father is absent. So, yeah. Like, are you supposed to let your children lack because the father is absent, and you just let your children just be without or fall through the cracks of society? No, you're not. You're supposed to step in. You have no choice. Black women have no choice. None. I'm going to have to make a part 2 of this because I don't want this to be too long, and I feel like this video is going to be long.
And asked them to watch me as I rebuilt who I was. And I'm still very alpha, but I'm in my throne and my crown is straight.
Okay. I'm looking forward to straightening my crown, Dr. Iyana. Let me ask you this. Let's get to the logistics, though. Let's get to the logistics. We know that Black women are earning college degrees faster than anybody else. Many of us are doing like we're doing, Iyanla. We're getting those terminal degrees, those JDs, MD, PhDs. We also are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, along with Latina women in America. Pew Research said that women are now out-earning men. Yes. In 22 of the largest cities in America, including where I live, New York, DC, LA, you name it. When we talk, and I know that you've said that you cannot teach a man or tell a man how to be a man. So I will not ask you to indict men in this question. But I do want you to speak, Iyanla, to how women need to, position ourselves so that we can be in our divinity, so we can have our crowns right, how we can create and not build when some of us, quite frankly, feel that the men that are available to us, and I'm talking about across the color spectrum, across the age spectrum, trust me, I've done them all, they are not positioned to protect nor provide because of some of the statistics we just talked about. They're not earning the incomes. They're not having the resources, and some of them are not even showing up in the leadership.
Okay, so this is the problem that I have with this clip, because right after Ebony asked Iyana, the question, Iyana reverts to, who would you date? Would you date a bus driver? So completely ignoring the statistics, right? Completely ignoring, the lack of leadership in the Black community from men, the lack of employment within the Black community from the men, the, lack of, creating businesses, so on and so forth. All of those are very true and very real. And instead of Iyana acknowledging those things, those statistics, and saying, okay, so yeah, that's part of the problem. Not necessarily blaming it on the women or blaming it on the men, but just saying, yes, that is part of the problem. That would be part of the problem in any community. Unemployment is a problem. Not building is a problem. Okay? Not earning enough to take care of yourself, let alone a family, is a problem. In any community, it doesn't matter which community you go into, it's a problem for any community. And she did not acknowledge any of that. She diverts to, would you date a bus driver? That does not answer the question. And I just believe that what she did was really, it wasn't right. It wasn't right. It wasn't a good way to answer the question.
Would you date a bus driver? Would you date
if
a bus
he owns
driver?
the bus? If he owns
No.
it. If he owns the bus,
See, that's a
Iyanla.
problem. That's a problem. Because the standards and requisites, and I'm not talking about him laying on his sofa playing video games all day. I'm not talking about that. But the standards and the criteria that we use to measure men is off for who we are as women and who they are in this society. I would date a bus driver if he loved driving the bus, if he was a man of integrity, if he was good to his mama, if he treated me well, I would date a bus driver. But we think that it's another human being's responsibility to give us what we need instead of us building together. I can build with a bus driver. I'd have my little stash over on the side in my prenup, but I could build with a bus driver. So I think some of the criteria that we look for in the reality of today keeps us unhappy, keeps us angry, keeps us imbalance. And then when the men show up, we want to beat them up because they're not living up to our standards and criteria. And it's not working, beloved. It's just not working. So it's not that it's bad or wrong. It's obsolete. It's obsolete. We have to come up with a new way of being. I don't believe in carrying a man. A man has to do for himself. My son got his first job when he was 9. 9. Okay? Because you're a Black man. You will know how to take care of yourself. But I think the way we measure it, it's just obsolete.
I think that's a factual analysis. For whatever we want, expect, we're told we were going to get, we got to look at the numbers and what's available on the marketplace. So you're certainly not wrong in the analysis. And Iyanla, let's tell the truth and shame the devil. We know what you got in that prenup would never be little. It'll never be small. Child, that's a big old mound of assets. But
okay, so I want to talk about the notion of dating a bus driver. Statistically, most Black women are partnered and married to Black men who are degular. Bus drivers, they work at the airport, doing maintenance, they are housekeepers, workers and they are just regular, they work for the city, with the trash, picking up the trash. Most black women are married to these men. These men, who do y'all think is married to these black men with these jobs? Most black women been married to these men. This is the thing. This is why I'm like, what are you talking about? But what she is saying, what I had to understand is, instead of her telling her, a woman of her stature, right, it's okay for you to want, desire a man who is at your level or higher. She's telling her that, oh, well, even though you're not the bus driver, you should take into consideration dating the bus driver. And, my thing is this. This is only being told to black women. You would never find in any other group of women. I'm going to tell you right now, other groups of women, if these women from other groups are even with black men, I can bet, you almost can bet that if they get with a black man, it is understood within the family that this black man better bring something. He better not be regular. He can't be regular. It could be, okay, well, you with this man because he can provide, a green card for everybody to come over here. Okay, well, you're getting with this man because he makes X amount of dollars. Okay, well, you're getting with this man because you got, 2 or 3 children from a different group of men. You didn't gain a bunch of weight. And the only man that's going to, get with you is the black man. It could be, believe me, they not just getting with just no bus drivers just because. And if they are, it's because of that green card or it's because he paying them bills. You best believe that. It ain't because the woman of another group is making way more money than the black man that they with. No other group of women, their mamas, their grandmothers, their aunties will never tell them to do such thing. But in the black community, our grandmothers, our aunties, the older women will tell black women to do that. They will tell black women to settle. And my thing about that is, when you look at the community from as far back as you want to go, I don't care what generation you go to, when you look at the black community, what you will find is that black women have always dated and married and partnered and had children with regular men. And so the question becomes, can you say the same thing about black men who make 6-7 figures? No, you cannot. See, what we see and have seen is that when black men make it out of poverty, when black men make it out the hood, when black men work so hard to, pull themselves out of whatever, trauma that they come from, whatever dysfunction that they come from, not only do they make sure they don't go back, but they also get with different groups of women overwhelmingly. And they're told that it's okay because now that you've made it, now that you're making this type of money, it's okay for you to get with a different group of women. But a black woman, oh no, I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what the struggle was for you to make it out of your situation. I don't care what trauma you've been through. When you make it out, you still better find a way to bring a black man up with you. Black men are not taught and told to do that. That's just a fact. It is what it is. It's always been like that. You cannot name 10 black women who are married to brain surgeons or who are married to, the man who created the cure for bone cancer. Like, black women, the majority, are with men who make well under 6 figures. Black women, the majority, are with men who are the bus drivers. They are, the trash men guys. They are the guy that work at FedEx, shipping boxes. They are the guy that, does Uber on the weekends. What are you talking about? They are the barbers. Walk into any black barbershop. Walk into anyone. These black barbershop and the owners of the barbershops are with black women. Overwhelmingly. Walk into any auto detail neighborhood, shade tree mechanic shop. This black man is married to a black woman or partnered with a black woman. Walk into HEB, the black dude working at HEB. I guarantee you he's partnered to, married to, with a black woman. Black women, this is what I'm saying. Like, it's the ignoring of the facts and statistics is what drives me. Because we've seen black women doing that, doing it on a higher level than any other group of women, right? And we see what that still does with the community. The community is still the way that it is. Because a man who's unable to work a job and take care of himself, if he's unable to do that, he's not going to be able to do it for a family. And then he's going to become angry. And then that anger turns to the family. Then it turns to, the wife, the kids. Then it turns to himself. Black women, the best thing that a black woman can do for a man who wants to do better and be better and go higher and higher is to let him be a man and figure it out. That's the best thing. I have seen black women try to help men. It didn't work out. He becomes resentful. He blames her for giving him the wrong advice. I've seen it all. The best thing that a woman can do is let this man figure it out. And instead of Iyana being honest about that, even in her own life, the reason why she blurted out the status of her man and her husband and how he didn't work and had no job, the reason why she did that is because that was in her subconsciousness. That was bothering her. That was a problem for her. That was pressure for her. Can you imagine? You working as hard as you work. You got 3 kids who are not this man's. Those kids came from different relationships. You carrying the kids. You carrying the husband. You carrying the house and everything. That's a lot of. Ask any man of any group, any race. That's a lot for a man to carry. And then you a woman and you trying to carry that. That's the reason. That's the real reason. But see, we're not being honest here. There's nothing wrong with dating or getting with a bus driver. But we're going to talk about leagues. Because see, men will sit up and talk about, a league. They'll sit up and talk about where you fall at on the attractive scale, whether or not you're a 5 or a 10. Well, see, women, it's whether or not you make 6 figures or you don't. So when you don't, you got to date within the pool, your pool of people, your group. Date within that. And then once you get the 6 figures, then you can move up. Everybody knows this. But see, this is the thing. Black people, we act like we don't. We act like we don't. And we don't want to acknowledge that. And we don't want to tell the truth about that. All right, guys. So that's all I have for you guys. I did want to talk about how Ebony did come back with a response. And she basically doubled down on, not dating a bus driver and how many black people, have taught to be and to accept mediocrity. And I want to talk about that too, but the video is already long, so I may come back in a different video and talk about that. Because I completely agree with Ebony. I completely agree with, the fact that, many of us, we do settle for, mediocre. We do settle for, oh, well, I didn't get, 100 on this exam. I got a 75. Or I got a 65. That's technically not, because we have, and there's a reason to that. It's not like we just do it because, it's a reason to that. I personally believe that, some of us, not all, we believe that, when we are able to come by something better than what we have, right? It could be a little bit better or it could be a lot better. But if it's better, we'll take it. Okay, guys, so that's all I have for you. I hope you enjoyed the video. Go ahead and comment, like, subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. If you are new to the channel, welcome. And I hope you come back. And of course, you're more than welcome to come back. Go ahead and comment and let me know if you enjoyed the video. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.